Hey, deserving listeners, 90 Day Fiancé. Let's watch.
If you want to drive, you could have driven yourself all the way out here. I appreciate your feedback, but I'm good.
Well, yeah, but you don't know what's ahead of you, so
It's a road. I can see it.
You don't need to do that.
Do you want to tell me more about how I should live my life and do things that are very obvious right in front of me?
All right, so what's happening right now is Debbie met someone on Instagram and texted back and forth. They haven't spoken over FaceTime or anything. And they decided to go on a first date, which is great that Debbie is, getting back on the horse. Is that a saying? And Colt, which is another word for horse, right? He is, he's driving her, according to him, across state lines to meet him. And they're also bringing her friend, Debbie's friend. And so they're going to meet him. And there's been some back and forth about, like, do you know this guy? Is he catfishing you? Da-da-da. Some details we learned is that he is in his early 70s and, is her generation. Anyway. And there's a bit of tension. I think they've been driving for hours, and that happens in cars. Debbie is starting to criticize his driving. We don't know if that's legit or not. Sometimes I wish that they would show us like what she's reacting to, like maybe he did something that was dangerous, but who knows. And then Colt is getting upset. He's like, can you, stop that? Debbie isn't really relenting. And then we hear Colt say something interesting. It was like, are you going to tell me what to do? So I think let's rewind this, because this might be one of the only times we've ever seen Colt's unspoken request or anger towards Debbie. Let's rewind that.
Slow down. You don't know what's ahead of you.
If you want to drive, you could have driven yourself all the way out here. I appreciate your feedback, but I'm good.
Well, yeah, but you don't know what's ahead of you, so
it's a road. I can see it.
You don't need to do that.
Do you want to tell me more about how I should live my life and do things that are very obvious right in front of me?
So maybe he's playing around. I mean, I hear laughter. Maybe that's the friend in the back seat just laughing awkwardly out of the awkwardness of the situation. But it's possible, who knows, that for Colt, this is something of a resentment or anger that he's had for years and years and years of, criticizing me and telling me what to do. Stop that. Not only in driving, but in life and all sorts of things. I don't know.
Let's do that. Why don't you say, good job, son. I knew you could do it. Good old boy, sonny boy. I bet you thought I'd fuck it up.
Since when did you start hating my guts?
I don't hate.
All right, interesting response from Debbie. Now, Colt could be more differentiated and more fair if he was like, Mom, I'm okay as a driver. Me and my wife. My wife thinks I'm I don't know. I don't know what she would say, but she says that I drive unsafe. I would like to think of myself as an extremely safe driver. I've been driving, I don't know why I have to say this, but I'm 51, so I've been driving since I was 16, and I've never been in an accident that I caused. I've been in an accident that like I'm sitting at a stop sign, someone runs into me. That happened strangely a lot when I was in my 20s. I don't know why. When my wife is criticizing my driving, I evaluate that criticism to be sometimes totally fair. And I will admit, it's like, oh yeah, that time I was a little distracted. I should have been watching that situation. But I feel like sometimes it's just her anxiety. And that's fine. If you're having anxiety about driving or someone else is driving, you should be able to voice that. And there's a fairness to the tone that you can exhibit of just like, oh my God, that scared me. Or, oh my God, can you slow down? I'm scared. I used to have this friend in college, and she was a very even-keeled person, but when she got behind the wheel, it was terrifying. Anyway, point is you can talk about own your feelings. You don't say you're an idiot driver or you're crazy the way, Debbie wasn't saying that, but Debbie was saying, actually Debbie was being kind of fair. She's like, you can't see ahead of you, so, be careful. So there's a way of responding to backseat driving that I think is also important to evaluate and to discuss in terms of like, if you think you're doing everything okay and someone is criticizing your driving, how do you respond? And you can say like, oh, okay, like I think best case scenario, you're like, it's sort of like you're taking feedback from a customer, like the customer is like, please don't put, that much ketchup on my hamburger. Can you, in your mind, you might be like, well, it's better with more ketchup, but the customer, so if you're just going from A to B and he's driving her somewhere, then, and she wants him to slow down, then it's like, well, I don't think I have to slow down, but why not slow down? But if you got issues with criticism, or you have a lifetime of criticism between yourself, Debbie, and Colt, then it might trigger something. Okay, so Colt reacts, I think, kind of strongly, but Debbie could have read the room and said like, oh, maybe I was being overly critical, or maybe I'm actually touching on some kind of a wound. Maybe I should apologize. Sorry, I just wanted you to slow down, but, I don't want to make you feel like you're criticized. But instead, she takes it to this other level of, since when did you start hating me? So that's a way of pushing back, right? It's a passive way of saying, I need you to shut up now, and your point you're making is not valid. You're just deciding to hate me. Look at, as he put, and this might be indicative of their dynamic. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. How do I say that? That in their lifetime together, Colt would be submissive and comply, and then every once in a while he would talk back. It wouldn't be very refined because there's a lot of anger that's volcanoing, and then she would go, oh, you hate me, and then would become very much what people call playing the victim. I'm not in love with, I don't like that phrase, which causes Colt to feel, it's a guilt trip, right? Which causes Colt to retreat and go like, oh, I'm a terrible son, and then everything goes back to normal.
I love you very much.
Yeah, sure you
That's
do.
why I'm spending my entire weekend to do this little crusade of yours.
Well, shut the fuck up.
Okay, so he's saying, I love you very much. So right away, he's trying to make, he's trying to, which is a really great thing to say in the midst of this kind of conversation. It was like, she's saying, oh, since when did you hate me? And she's like, no, Mom, I love you very much, but and then he kind of takes it a little too far of like a crusade, He kind of knows, they probably are quite enmeshed and know each other's wounds, the hole in the armor, with Smaug, there's that one part where that you can really get that arrow through. They probably both know where those Achilles heels are for each other, and he knows, I think, that to call out this, she's insecure about the dating process and about a crusade, it sort of implies like this war that she's on, this fruitless war. The crusades were fruitless and pointless, and so that hurts her, and then she's shut the F up. So I don't know, they're kind of being playful on one level, but I think that some things are being expressed here.
God.
Okay.
You know what? Go to the airport. I'll put you on the plane and put you back home. Sorry,
Debbie,
I asked
Debbie,
you to do me
Debbie.
a favor. Get me out. Pull over. I want to get out.
Debbie.
I'm not going to do that.
Wow, so they're obviously not being playful. She's saying, pull over, I want to get out. So what is that? I suspect that she's having some kind of trauma reaction, some kind of fight or flight. This will happen sometimes, just like you just got to get away. She could own that and say like, I don't know, there's something happening right now that I just need some space. Can you pull over at the first, spot that's safe because I need to get some fresh air? Is that okay? Instead, it's like punishing, like, I can't believe that you would do this to me. And so I'm going to so who knows? But families that I've treated like this, it wouldn't be uncommon for the person in Debbie's position to have a lot of childhood trauma around criticism and rejection. And when there's any kind of pushback, particularly from your son, that you're not doing things right, you fall into a deep abyss of pain and agony, and you feel put upon, you feel wounded, you feel like you're right back in that place when you're 4 years old and you're being abused or you're being criticized or abandoned or something, and you have this visceral, physiological, emotional reaction. You panic and you fight or flight, and then you got to get out of the car.
Pull me
Pull on
over.
the
Pull
freeway.
over. I want to get the fuck out of this car.
No.
Calm down.
Fine, I'll open the door and jump out.
No.
See, Debbie?
Can you
got
put your
wish.
seatbelt back
Okay.
on?
So Colt, we've seen this mode that he gets into, that he's tries to make light of things. And I think he did this with Larissa as well, where he just kind of freezes and tries to make nice and like, it'll all end if I just act kind of surface. And so he was doing that with her, not escalating with her. I think she's panicking. I don't think this is just some sort of put on. I think she's vulnerable given the fact that there's cameras, given the fact she's going on another date. She's been rejected twice thus far. It's been a long car ride. She's nervous about meeting this new person, possibility about being rejected again. I'm sure this looms pretty large in her mind. Her son is pushing back, maybe emboldened by the fact that there's cameras or the fact that there's a friend that's in the car. Something's going on, and she's going to some pretty deep, emotionally wounded places. That's causing her to panic.
We're almost there. Put your seatbelt back on. Oh, Jesus.
Debbie.
No, don't do this, Debbie.
Debbie.
Debbie, you...
God damn it, Debbie. You're pissing me off.
Jesus Christ.
And you don't want to piss me off.
So if I were there, I'd be like, let her out. Just let her walk around the block. She'll be okay. She'll come around, but just let her out. When people are claustrophobic and, you know, emotionally get me out of this place, like, do not stand in their way, please.
Debbie, come on. You're not accomplishing anything. You're only fucking up the whole rest of the date night for you. Take it easy. Come on.
Be a fucking jerk. I was really looking forward to my date with Bill, but now Colt is being a major jerk.
So this isn't the first time we've seen this, that Colt will be, I mean, in the past, he was extremely reasonable. He's like, hey, I'm going to give you 3 months to move out, that kind of thing. And she was like, she went away and was very upset, and he's a total jerk. And that was the first time that I realized, like, oh, she's got some interesting distortions. I don't think I'd really seen that sort of foundational part of her personality. And she's doing it again. And you could argue that he was a little harsh, but the reaction that she's having is seemingly, you know, it's not commensurate with what happened, at least from what they edited. Who knows? But so if I just told you, you know, forget about her age, forget about Debbie. If I just told you that someone was being a backseat driver, and then the driver criticized, say, hey, back off, and they had a meltdown and said, let me out of the car, what age would you say that person was? I'm guessing most people would think that backseat driving doesn't really lend itself to children, but, you know, if it was some other topic other than backseat driving, and they're having a meltdown and they're like, get me out of the car, then they won't get back in. You'd think, like, you know, 7 years old, 12 years old, that kind of thing. So I think for Debbie, that's what's happening. There's some kind of deep traumatic place that is being triggered. What are the emotional elements that might have triggered her? Well, she is being told that her views are wrong. She's being rejected for her views. She's in a vulnerable place because she's on this road trip to meet this other guy. So she's going to get rejected, abandoned, or something. And so I'm guessing that's what's happening. I wouldn't be surprised if Debbie didn't have a childhood with a lot of criticism and maybe even not allowing her to have her own voice. And so when she does speak up, she speaks up in this very unrefined way. And then when people react bad to her, it makes her feel like, yeah, that's why no one ever lets me talk, when it's like, well, it's because of the way you came across.
Don't say a word, because Colt's not going to say a word either. We're going to be in radio silence here, right? All right.
So it's good that they have their therapist/friend with them in the backseat. And she's saying, okay, the agreement she's saying is neither one of them are going to talk, but they're both self-reported as extreme talkers. I have an eyebrow. I think that's getting in my face. And we'll see if they can not talk. All right. Well, that does it for that episode. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and take care of others, because we all deserve it. We really, really do.